Hi there, it's August the 14th, and we continue our readings in the book of Nehemiah, and today we're in chapters 8 and 9. So the walls are finished, and the people are now gathering together, and at the beginning of chapter 8, Ezra the scribe, who's a priest, comes and he opens the book of Torah, and he has a special pulpit or special platform constructed of wood that lifts him up above the people so that all the people around who are gathered can hear him. And Nehemiah is there. He's called the Tirshata, which is a Persian word or a Babylonian word that means the governor. So Nehemiah is the governor of the city, but Ezra is the one who stands up and reads along with his fellow priests from the Torah. Now it's very interesting here that the people stand for a long time during the day listening to Torah. And unfortunately, we miss something here in our English translations where it's translated law. We miss the fact that Torah doesn't mean law to the Jewish people. Torah is a word actually that comes from something to do with the instruction given to a child. So in the book of Proverbs it talks about listening to the Torah and learning the Torah of your mother, and that really means the nurture, the instruction, the upbuilding, the guidance. And Torah actually includes the whole story of God and Israel from the creation through to their being on the threshold of the promised land. So it's really the whole story of God's salvation, people, the promises to Abraham. And so no wonder the people stand and listen to this in wonder, and they stand and listen for so long, and they're prepared to. It's the rehearsal of God's goodness. It's the rehearsal of salvation to them. And actually it so moves them that many people begin to weep. There's a great weeping because they realize how much they've lost. They've been through exile, they've been through Babylon, they've been through this time of separation from the land, and now they're beginning to build it up again. And there's a great weeping as they recognize that they've not lived up to what God has for them. But there's an interesting point here where Ezra and Nehemiah and others encourage them not to weep, because this is a day of joy. This is a day of restoration. This is a day when God has given back to them something that they lost. And actually they're told to go and to send presents to one another and to celebrate, because it says the joy of the Lord is your strength. And he uses a very interesting word there in the Hebrew for joy. It's not the usual joy, simchat sason, but it's the word hedva. Hedva really means just celebration, and it's difficult to express, but it means celebrate, because the hedva, the joy of the Lord, makes you strong. When we rejoice in God, it makes us strong. And so the people go. The other thing they realize is that this is the 7th month of the Jewish calendar, that they're reading this, and they discover from the Jewish calendar that actually this is a time of celebration of the feast of Sukkot, the feast of sheds or tabernacles. And so they dwell for 7 days as set out in the Torah. They dwell in booths that they build on top of their houses. They're made of branches, and they recall the time when Israel was in the desert traveling with God, when God led them with a cloud, the pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night. And it's an amazing celebration. They spend this 7 days, and it says there was never a celebration of this like this in Israel since the days of Joshua. And interestingly enough, it uses the Aramaic form of the word Joshua, Yeshua, and Yeshua is also the name that's given to Jesus later on. And then in chapter 9, there's an amazing prayer that is prayed, and this prayer really is calling the people to bless God for what they've heard, and it follows the pattern of Torah. So it starts saying, bless God, all of you hosts of heaven, worship him, all of you stars. It looks back to the creation. It traces through Abraham from his calling as Avram and giving him the name Abraham. It goes through the calling of Moses, the deliverance from Egypt, the traveling through the desert. It's a whole blessing prayer connected with the story of Torah that the people have stood and heard in chapter 8. Today we can rejoice that we have these scriptures in our hands. These are an amazing gift the gift of God to us to be able to tell us his story, to tell us his faithfulness. And during that prayer, there's that famous repetition that even though his people have gone astray, even though they've turned their backs on him, even though they made other gods, it says, but you are a God who forgives. It says, Allah slichot, you are a God of forgiveness, and you're a God of compassion, and you're a God of mercy, and you're a God of grace, of hesed. And it just reminds God how gracious he is. We have graciously been given so much from God, and of course we have been given Yeshua, we have been given Jesus, the Messiah of God, so that we who are not Jews can now come into the fullness of this story with them, this story of Torah. Have a very good August the 14th.